You're not on TV. We need to have a talk about playing real ranges in poker.
Here we go. So today's subject is going to be ranges, TV ranges versus actual real ranges. We're going to play 20 minutes of poker and discuss the subject. Okay, so on this one, I like to bet paired boards, usually when I'm in position, but this is a bet fold. We're going to need a little help here. If he calls or goes over top, I mean, the hand is done. Okay, so what are we talking about? So on TV and live streams, you have players playing some pretty wide ranges. So when you're watching it, and if you are basing your ranges off of what they're playing, you're going to be playing pretty loose, pretty wide. Now, if for a few examples, when Phil Gelfond was on a poker show back 15 years ago, and he was playing normal poker, and he did not get invited back because he was playing normal poker. They told him that he wasn't good for TV, which meant that he wasn't playing loose enough. He wasn't being splashy. He wasn't playing negative EV. I'll link that video down in the description below. So what that means is when you're watching these live streams, when you're watching poker shows or somebody on like me on YouTube, generally speaking, they're playing really wide and not realistic for playing an actual poker game because they're looking to get invited back. You can say the same thing about private games. Matt Berkey is a poker pro who plays invite games at the Bellagio, and they're high stakes, and he readily admits that he has to play a lot looser in those games than he would like when he was playing 5-10 on his way up in poker. Because if you're just there to play tight and take, you're not going to get invited back. Because private games, they want them to be fun and splashy. And same with your TV poker and your live stream poker. Bart Hansen, who you might be familiar with, he has a poker coaching site, Crush Live Poker, and he does a YouTube where he does hand breakdowns. And he's talked about this in the past before too, that people are playing way wider ranges when they're on TV because they have to, or when they're on live streams. And he used to announce for live streams. He was a commentator. And if you play tight, normal poker, you're not going to get invited back. So where does that leave us? What I'm saying is that don't base your play on what other people that you see are playing. If you're comparing your game, okay, we got queens. We're going to raise this up in the small blind. Okay. And we're never folding here. If he jams, we'll just have to call it off. Now you could argue if he jams. All right, so we 3-bet, so we're going to C-bet, and we have no overs, no ace, no king, so it's going to be hard to let it go here. That was not a good card. That fills straights. How many straights are here? Does he have a 9? Does he have a jack? We're going to have to call if he bets. We're not folding here. That was an even worse card. He's got the 9, we're done. Well, let's try it. Oh, it got us on the turn. God, good Lord. Tough sledding today. Okay, well, it is what it is. So, on a tough board like that, I should have let that go. All I had was a pair. That goes back to the just pay, just fold. I got too sticky for my own good. I'll link to that video, the just pay video, where I would argue that I wouldn't play that I should have discontinued once you put money in. They don't put money in without it. So that one's on me. I got too sticky for my own good. So getting back to that, lose a stack, pick up 3 bigs. That's, well, whatever. Okay, so that if you're watching these and then you're thinking that you play too tight, or like when you see different ranges that, wow, those ranges seem really tight. Well, because you're comparing apples to oranges. Another example is Andrew Brokus and Carlos Welch. They do a podcast called Thinking Poker, and you can find that on Spotify. And they talk about, they're both tournament players, and they do play some cash. And the Carlos Welch, he's a poker pro, plays for a living, and so he was on at a tournament, busted out, and he was playing cash. And these other players know that he's a pro, and he's playing like a nit, and they're giving him a hard time, and that he's not playing very many hands. And as he explained in the podcast, because if you're a winning cash player, you can't play a ton of hands and be winning. You got to play tight. You got to have tight ranges. So I did a video on the basic poker strategy where I outlined 43 hands and how to play them, and it was pretty tight. And I also said that you can add to it later on. But generally speaking, you need to be playing tight ranges pre-flop and not play like the live streams that you're watching. And basically the point of this video is to point out the fact that when you're watching these things, you're not watching realistic poker. You're watching players that have to play really wide to get invite back. So, well, we were down a stack. Got too sticky with the queens. That 8 came. I knew it was a bad card. Said it was a bad card, and yet I called the guy down because I had a pair. And that gets back to stack to pot ratio. Kind of a blunder of a play, but that's where I have trouble folding top of range sometimes. And again, that's in that Just Pay video, really breaks down that. And this is a little bit of a loose call. All right, this hand is done. I know we got 2 overs, but if we're sharing an ace with anybody, they have ace king or ace queen, and we don't have a heart. We don't have a pair. We're drawing. What are we drawing to? A bad ace, a bad jack. And if you could hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. You can definitely comment on how I played my queens. If you agreed the way I played it, that it had to go in, or that it's a fold. Anytime they want to pile money in, and yeah, I thought I was staring at a possible 9. Well, when we got to that point, who knows? The board was so wet. I should have let my pair go. That was just poor play. Too sticky. That I was hoping for a jack up, but there, I mean, I was losing to a flush. I was losing to a 9. I was losing to 2 pair. I was losing to everything. And yet I called it off. Bad play. Only thing I was beating was ace jack. That was it. So that should have been a fold. But I get talking and not thinking. And that is, I've talked about that in a video too, where I'm playing these where I'm not thinking as clearly as I probably would be if I wasn't talking. So, oh well, I guess that's the cost of making a video. All right, let's see if we can't get another table up here. All right, we're back with another table. We'll get some action going here. We're going to check fold that, fold that. And a lot of times, one of the things about playing tighter ranges is playing tighter when somebody is in the pot ahead of you. And maybe that I should do a video on that, where somebody being in the pot ahead of you really should change the ranges that you're playing, because they're saying that they have a good hand, especially if they're under the gun, especially when you're at a 9-person table. Okay, we got ace 10 of diamonds. We're going to flat call this if he bets. If not, we're going to raise first in, fold to a 3-bet. Okay. And see what Mr. Bluff wants to do over here. All right, this is a typical c-bet board. We do have an ace high hand. We're going to c-bet it. I don't see calling anything here. Yeah, this hand is pretty much over. I mean, if he bets, we're going to have to call 1 because of if we catch the 9, but we're not putting any money into this. Yeah, this hand is done as far as I'm concerned. Now, yeah, so we're not beating anything. Oh my God, we would have flopped a boat over here in a 3-bet pot. Could have got our money back. Oh well. Fold there. And if you watch old videos of poker, well, like some of the really old pros, like the pre-poker boom pros, talked about how they played a lot tighter ranges before the poker boom. That, you didn't play a lot of suited gappers in the middle and all that, 10-8s, that they were just considered losing hands. I mean, they played very tight. The winning pros that is. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll catch some cards here. And we got about 7 minutes left, so we got time to maybe we can get a stack in again. Hopefully in the right way. Yeah, and that was a prime example of getting too sticky with a pair. Oh well. And we're going to fold that. King 6, offsuit in the big blind. Okay, that's a weird board to punch your last 30 forward in. Ace 8 in the small blind, not suited. We're going to let that go. So has he got 2 pair? He's saying he's got a king. And the other thing about poker too, and you could use those queens for example, is once you don't have the betting lead, or on my example, I gave up the betting lead because I checked the turn, is when you don't think that you have the advantage in the hand, how bad do you want to keep piling chips into it? Really, you want to be putting the chips in when you're in the driver's seat, not calling. Calling is a lot different than betting. And that was really a prime example that I went turn passive and called his on a really wet board that I said I didn't like the turn, hated the river even more, and I still called it off. That's your recreational player right there in a nutshell. Fold that. Okay, ace 9 offsuit. We're going to let that go. So in the comment section, let me know what you think about my TV ranges versus real ranges, if that's a real discussion or not. We're going to 3-bet this up. It's one of our 3-bet hands, and we'd like to ace-queen needs some help. And if he goes over the top, we're done. Because ace-queen offsuit's not beating anything that somebody's going to 4-bet with. And we're 3-betting to... We 3-bet, so we're going to c-bet, but this hand is over. We're not... This isn't the last money in pot. An LMIP. If he calls, we're done. If he goes over the top, we're done. There we go. Ace 3 offsuit, we're going to let that go. Okay. And I'll leave a link to my SPR video too. That would kind of explain why that play was not a good play. That there's too much behind for me to have put in just a pair. Okay. Ace 8 under the gun, offsuit. We're going to let that go. Not a big fan of the unsuited aces that aren't Broadway. Ace 4. Especially like ace 8. You can't make the straight. You can't make the nut flush with it because it's not suited. In ace 4, you can argue you can make the wheel. I don't know. When you flop the ace, your kicker is just terrible. I mean, you're really hoping to flop 2-pair, and that's asking a lot. It's hard to flop 2-pair. Fold there. Jack 2, or folding that. And another reason you could argue that that was a bad play is we're playing online. There's a million tables to play. Why put money in without a stronger hand? That we're seeing a million hands per hour. That there's really online. There's really no reason to put that money in on that play. That was a little stubborn on my part. Like I say, one of my problems has been is I have trouble folding top of range. I just do. And on the river, I have a hard time folding a 5-card hand. If I have a straight and that flush completes on the river, I just really sticky with 5-card hands. King 9, we're going to let that go. It's tough to make a pair in this game. It's really tough to make a 5-card hand. And on some of this stuff is part of the learning process is watch what I'm doing wrong so you don't repeat it yourself. And those queens were a good example. Right when I pointed out that ace 8 of spades on the turn was a bad card for me, and yet I continued in the hand. Okay, that's one to watch and say, okay, he didn't like the card, didn't want to continue, but eventually got all the chips in anyways. So sometimes we got to learn that way too. The 4-5, it's a little bit low to be playing. 4-5 unsuited under the gun, 9-handed, we're not playing that. Okay. Well, we're winding down here. getting close to our time. Definitely not getting our money back, because when you make mistakes in poker, you pay for it. And they're not putting it in without a big hand. That was 20 minutes of poker for Bonesaw Poker. I'm Brad. And remember, everything you want is on the other side of fear.